Admiral Saracen stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath the transparent aluminum viewport. The blue marble that had given birth to humanity looked peaceful from here, its white clouds swirling across continents where 8 billion souls lived their daily lives, unaware that their entire existence hung in the balance. Behind her, the emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council was reaching its climax. Voices rose and fell in heated debate, but Sarah had heard enough. The message from the Galactic Council had been clear, delivered through quantum entanglement communications that had arrived just 6 hours ago. Submit to integration into the Galactic Empire, or face complete annihilation. Admiral Chun. The voice belonged to Director James Morrison, head of Earth's intelligence services. His weathered face carried the weight of secrets that could crush lesser men. The Council is ready for your assessment. Sarah turned from the viewport, her uniform crisp despite the sleepless night. At 45, she had risen through the ranks faster than anyone in Earth's military history, not through politics, but through an uncanny ability to see patterns others missed. Today, that skill would be tested like never before. The council chamber fell silent as she approached the central podium. Holographic displays showed star charts, fleet positions, and the faces of world leaders connected from every major city on Earth. President Elena Vasquez of the Americas Union leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "Admiral, we need your honest assessment. Can we fight them?" Sarah looked at the assembled faces, some hopeful, others terrified. These people had built a civilization that had reached for the stars, only to discover they were small fish in an ocean of predators. The Galactic Council's ultimatum had detailed their military superiority with cold precision, 12,000 worlds under their control, fleet strengths that numbered in the millions, weapons that could crack planets like eggs. The short answer, Madam President, is no. We cannot fight them conventionally. Murmurs of despair rippled through the chamber. Sarah raised her hand for silence. However, the Council has made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. She gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show Earth's defensive positions. Orbital platforms bristled with weapons that appeared primitive compared to Galactic Council technology. The Mars colonies looked vulnerable, scattered across the red planet's surface like tiny jewels. They see our fleet of 300 ships and dismiss us as insignificant. They observe our energy weapons and consider them crude. They note our population of 8 billion and file us under manageable integration. But they've made the same mistake every empire in human history has made when facing an apparently weaker opponent. Director Morrison stepped forward. "What mistake is that, Admiral?" "They've confused capability with intent." Sarah's voice hardened. "The Council assumes that because we appear technologically inferior, we will respond like every other species they've encountered. Surrender, negotiate, beg for mercy. They've built their empire on the assumption that rational beings will choose survival over principle." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the background hum of the station's life support seemed to fade. But humanity didn't colonize Mars because it was easy. We didn't build these orbital platforms because we had unlimited resources. We didn't develop quantum communication because we were bored. We did these things because we refused to accept limitations. Sarah's eyes swept across the assembled leaders. And we certainly didn't survive 2 world wars, a climate crisis, and the resource wars because we surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. President Chun of the Asian Cooperative raised his hand. "Admiral, with respect, inspiring words won't stop their battle fleets." Sarah smiled, and something in that expression made several council members shift uncomfortably. "No, they won't. But what the Galactic Council doesn't know is that we've been preparing for this day since we first detected their existence 15 years ago." The admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. Director Morrison's face remained carefully neutral, but Sarah caught the slight nod of approval. Project Prometheus has been running in absolute secrecy since 2157. We've developed technologies the Council cannot imagine, deployed assets they cannot detect, and prepared strategies that their models cannot predict. Sarah gestured again, and the display shifted to show classified schematics that made several Council members gasp. The Council sent us a threat, expecting submission or panic. Instead, They're about to receive something they've never encountered in 12,000 years of conquest. Sarah's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every word carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. They're about to encounter humanity at war. The silence stretched for long moments before President Vasquez spoke. "What are you recommending, Admiral?" Sarah straightened to her full height. "We send a message, Madam President. Not with words, but with actions. We show them exactly what happens when you threaten the species that conquered its own world, reached for the stars, and decided that freedom was worth any price. And if we lose, then we lose on our terms, fighting for everything we believe in. But I don't think we're going to lose." Sarah looked out at Earth through the viewport one more time. "I think we're going to teach the galaxy why humanity doesn't kneel." The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council's flagship, Eternal Dominion, drifted through space 3 light-years from Earth, its massive bulk casting shadows across a small moon. Council Prime Zephyrian stood in the ship's command center, his crystalline form refracting the blue glow of holographic displays. Around him, representatives from the Council's most powerful species monitored the primitive human system with detached interest. "Any response from the humans?" Zephyrian's voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that translated as bored curiosity. Subcommander Krex, a reptilian soar with scales that shifted color with emotion, consulted his tactical display. "Nothing yet, Prime. It has been 18 of their hours since the ultimatum was delivered. Our xenopsychology models predict surrender within the next 6 hours." "Excellent. Deploy the integration fleets to staging positions. I want this concluded quickly so we can move on to more significant conquests." Zephyrian turned toward the massive viewport, where Earth's sun appeared as just another star. The humans show promise for manual labor. Their adaptability rates are impressive. What the Council didn't know was that their communications were being monitored by devices so small they registered as cosmic dust. Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne sat in the deepest bunker on Earth, 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, analyzing every transmission with technology that shouldn't have existed. "They're moving," she announced to the war room around her. 12 integration fleets, approximately 50 ships each. Standard Council formation for planetary subjugation. General Marcus Torres, Earth's top military strategist, studied the tactical displays with the intensity of a chess master facing his greatest opponent. Time to intercept? At their current speed, 36 hours until they reach Earth's outer system. Elizabeth's fingers dance across holographic controls. But Marcus, there's something else. Their communication suggests they consider this routine. They're not even bringing their primary battle fleets. Torres smiled grimly. "Arrogance. It'll be their downfall." Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the communication system from Luna Station. "All units, this is Operation Prometheus. We are go for Phase 1. Remember, we need to make a statement that echoes across the galaxy. In the asteroid belt, humanity's greatest secret began to reveal itself. What appeared to be mining operations suddenly unfolded like metallic flowers, revealing weapons platforms that had been disguised for over a decade. Each platform was small by galactic standards, but their compact fusion reactors and advanced targeting systems represented the absolute pinnacle of human engineering. Captain Maria Santos commanded Platform 7, her crew of 12 managing systems that would have required hundreds on Council ships. "Targeting solutions locked," she reported. "We have clear shots on the advanced scouts." "Hold position," came Admiral Chen's response. "Let them come closer. We want this to hurt." Meanwhile, on Mars, the seemingly peaceful colonies were undergoing rapid transformation. Dome cities retracted into the planet's surface, while missile silos emerged from red sand. The Council's intelligence had cataloged Mars as having defensive capabilities equivalent to a minor fortress world. They were about to discover their error. Colonel Jackson Reed watched from the primary command bunker as his troops made final preparations. These weren't regular soldiers. They were veterans of the Titan Rebellion, the Europa Ice Wars, and a dozen other conflicts that had forged humanity into a species that thrived in hostile environments. "Sir, we're receiving movement from the Kuiper Belt installations." Reed nodded. The Kuiper Belt facilities were humanity's ace in the hole, completely undetected by Council surveys. They housed weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics. "Excellent." Signal Earth that Mars is ready. Back on the Council flagship, alarms suddenly began blaring. Sub-Commander Krex's scales shifted to alarmed orange as data flooded his displays. Prime, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human system. Facilities that weren't there in our last survey are powering up across multiple orbital bodies. Zephyrian's crystalline form darkened with displeasure. Impossible. Our intelligence networks are perfect. There are no major military installations in that system beyond their primitive orbital platforms. The signatures are consistent with military-grade fusion reactors, Prime. Hundreds of them. And they're targeting our advanced fleets. For the first time in 3 centuries, Council Prime Zephyrian felt something approaching concern. His species had conquered the galaxy through overwhelming force and perfect intelligence. The idea that a primitive species could hide significant military assets was nearly incomprehensible. Send a priority message to all Council fleets. Upgrade threat assessment for the human system to Category 7. Sir, that's the classification we use for established galactic powers. Do it. But it was already too late. In the space between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Santos received the signal she'd been waiting for. Prometheus platforms. This is Admiral Chun. The Council wanted a message. Let's give them one they'll never forget. All units, you are weapons-free. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The asteroid belt erupted in brilliant flashes of light as dozens of hidden weapons platforms opened fire simultaneously. Their targets. The Council's advanced scout ships never saw the attack coming. Advanced projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed struck the alien vessels with the force of small nuclear weapons. In less than 30 seconds, the Galactic Council lost more ships than they had in the previous 50 years of conquest. And humanity's message was just beginning. The destruction of the Council's advanced scouts sent shockwaves through the eternal dominion. Bridge officers scrambled to analyze data streams that painted an impossible picture. A species they had dismissed as primitive had just demonstrated weapons technology that rivaled their own. Council Prime Zephyrian's crystalline form pulsed with patterns of confusion and rage. How is this possible? Our intelligence operations are flawless. We've monitored this species for cycles. Sub-Commander Krex, his scales now a violent crimson, worked frantically at his station. Prime, we're receiving a transmission from the human system. They're broadcasting on all Council frequencies. Put it through. The main display shimmered and resolved into the image of Admiral Sarah Chun, standing in what appeared to be a military command center. Behind her, tactical displays showed the burning wreckage of Council ships drifting through space. Council Prime Zephyrian, Sarah began, her voice carrying across the vastness of space with crystal clarity. I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force. You sent us a message demanding our surrender. We have a response. Zephyrian leaned forward, his alien features unreadable to human eyes, but his body language radiating barely controlled fury. You have made a grave error, Sarah continued. You assumed that because we appeared weak, we would submit without resistance. You mistook our restraint for inability and our caution for cowardice. But most importantly, you fundamentally misunderstood what you're dealing with. The display behind Sarah shifted to show tactical readouts that made several Council officers gasp. Hidden installations throughout the Sol system were coming online, revealing a defensive network that spanned from Mercury to the outer planets. We are not a species that kneels, Prime. We are the species that looked at a dead rock called Mars and decided to make it home. We are the species that faced extinction on our own world and chose to fight our way to the stars. We are humanity, and we do not surrender. Sarah's image flickered as weapons fire illuminated the command center behind her. Even as she spoke, the battle for Earth's solar system was intensifying. Your integration fleets are now entering our outer system. They will not leave it. This is not a negotiation or a plea for mercy. This is a declaration of war against the Galactic Council and every species that supports it. The transmission ended, leaving the Council's command center in stunned silence. Zephyrian's voice, when he finally spoke, carried harmonics of genuine disbelief. A single world system has declared war on the entire Galactic Council? It appears so, Prime. Madness. Prepare the full battle fleets for immediate deployment. I want every ship we have in Council space moving toward this system within the hour. But even as the orders went out, reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Hidden human agents, sleeper cells that had been in place for over a decade, were activating simultaneously. Trade stations exploded in balls of fire. Communication relays went dark. Supply convoys vanished without trace. Director Morrison sat in a secure bunker on Earth, coordinating the largest intelligence operation in human history. Phoenix Protocol is active, he announced to his team. Every asset we placed in Council space over the past 15 years is now operational. The scope of humanity's preparation was staggering. While the Council had been monitoring Earth's obvious military developments, they had completely missed the shadow war that had been building around them. Human agents, many born and raised on Council worlds, had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. On the trading world of Kepler, 442b, a woman who had run a small restaurant for 20 years calmly walked to her basement and activated a fusion bomb that vaporized the planet's primary spaceport. On the industrial world of Proxima Station, a maintenance worker named David Kim opened valves that flooded the orbital shipyards with corrosive gas, destroying 50 Council warships under construction. Across 12,000 worlds, humanity's hidden children struck simultaneously. Back in the Sol system, the real battle was just beginning. The Council's integration fleets, designed to overwhelm primitive defenses through sheer numbers, found themselves facing something they had never encountered: humans fighting with their backs against the wall. Captain Santos and her asteroid belt platforms had been reinforced by ships emerging from hidden bases throughout the system. These weren't the primitive vessels the Council expected, but sleek, deadly craft that moved with impossible agility and struck with devastating precision. Contact, bearing 27 Mark V, her tactical officer announced. Council heavy cruiser, looks like a Thackeray design. Lock weapons and fire. No mercy, no quarter. The human ships used tactics that violated every assumption in Council military doctrine. They struck fast and disappeared into the asteroid field, using the rocky debris as cover, while their more powerful opponents struggled to maneuver in the tight confines. But the most shocking revelation came when the Council fleets reached Mars. Colonel Reed stood in his command bunker, watching the alien ships approach his world with grim satisfaction. All defensive batteries commenced firing. Let's show them what Martian hospitality looks like. The planet's surface erupted with weapons fire. Not the simple projectile weapons the Council expected, but exotic energy beams that punched through their ships' shields like they were made of paper. Missile swarms launched from hidden silos, each warhead guided by artificial intelligence that learned and adapted in real time. The Council had prepared for a simple conquest. Instead, they found themselves in a meat grinder. Prime. Subcommander Krex's voice cracked with strain. We're losing ships faster than we can count them. The humans have turned their entire system into a fortress. Every moon, every asteroid, every orbital platform is armed and hostile. Zephyrian watched this perfectly ordered invasion dissolve into chaos. Ships that had conquered worlds were being picked apart by opponents they couldn't even see half the time. How many reserves do we have in nearby sectors? 3 full battle fleets, Prime. But at this rate of loss, send them all, and signal the core worlds. Tell them we need everything they can spare. Sir, are you declaring a general mobilization? Zephyrian's crystalline form darkened to near black. I'm declaring that this human species represents an existential threat to Council authority. If we cannot crush them quickly and completely, their defiance will spread across the galaxy. The alien commander was right to be concerned. Across Council space, reports were flooding in of other species, watching the battle with growing interest. If a single system could stand against the Council, what might be possible if others joined the fight? Humanity's message was being received loud and clear. The battle of the Sol system raged for 72 hours without pause. Space around Earth blazed with the fury of weapons that turned night into day on the planet's surface. But for every Council ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The Galactic Council was throwing everything they had at humanity's home system, and even Earth's incredible preparations were being pushed to their limits. Admiral Chin stood in Luna Station's command center, her uniform stained with sweat and her eyes red from sleepless vigilance. Around her, tactical displays showed the grim mathematics of attrition warfare. They were winning individual engagements, But the Council's numbers seemed endless. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Park, her tactical officer, consulted the displays with obvious exhaustion. "We've destroyed approximately 400 Council vessels, but they keep bringing in reinforcements. Current count shows 800 enemy ships in system, with more arriving every hour. Our losses: 43 ships destroyed, 15 platforms offline. Mars reports heavy damage to their outer defensive rings, but the planet's core defenses remain intact." Chen nodded grimly. The battle was following predictions of their war games exactly. Humanity could inflict devastating losses on the Council forces, but they couldn't sustain the fight indefinitely against the galaxy's entire military might. "Admiral," came Colonel Reed's voice from Mars, "we need to talk about Phase 3. Chen closed her eyes for a moment. Phase 3 was the option nobody wanted to discuss. The plan that would ensure humanity's defiance echoed across the galaxy, regardless of whether Earth survived. "Transfer command authority to General Torres," she ordered. "I'll be planetside in 6 hours." But before she could leave Luna Station, the battle took an unexpected turn. Dr. Hawthorne's voice crackled over the communication system from her mountain bunker. "Sarah, you need to see this. We're receiving transmissions from across Council space. It's not just our Phoenix cells anymore. Other species are starting to move." The main display shifted to show intercepted communications from dozens of worlds. The Altarian Republic, subjugated 50 years ago, had destroyed 3 Council garrison fleets. The Kepler mining guilds had seized control of their star system. Most shocking of all, the proud warrior species of the Centauri cluster had declared their independence and were marching on Council strongholds. "My God," whispered Commander Park. "It's spreading." Director Morrison appeared on screen from his bunker, his face showing the first smile anyone had seen from him in days. "The intelligence networks are going crazy. Species that have been under Council control for centuries are rising up. They're calling it the human spark, the idea that if one species can fight back, others can too." But the celebration was short-lived. New contact appeared on the tactical display, and these weren't ordinary Council ships. The massive forms of core world battle fleets were entering the outer system, their hulls bristling with weapons that dwarfed anything humanity had faced so far. Sub-Commander Krex, now promoted to field commander after his predecessor's ship was destroyed by Martian defense platforms, studied the tactical situation with professional admiration despite his species' current circumstances. The humans had fought brilliantly, but they were about to face the full might of the Galactic Council's elite forces. "Prime," he reported to Zephyrian, "the core fleets have arrived. Council Admiral Threenox commands 60 heavy battleships and support vessels. The humans cannot possibly stand against such force." But Zephyrian had learned not to underestimate these creatures. "Order Threenox to proceed with extreme caution. These humans have shown remarkable tactical innovation." The Council was right to be careful. As their massive battle fleets approached Earth, they encountered something unprecedented in galactic warfare, a species that fought harder the closer they got to extinction. Captain Santos, now commanding a battle group of surviving platforms and ships, led her forces in increasingly desperate tacks. Her ship, the Indomitable, had been struck so many times that half her systems were running on backup power, but her crew continued to fight with a ferocity that had made humanity legendary. "Target the lead battleship," she ordered. "All remaining platforms, concentrate fire on their command section." The combined firepower of humanity's remaining forces struck the Council flagship like a sledgehammer. For a moment, it seemed like the massive ship might actually fall, but its shields held and it returned fire with weapons that could level cities. "Captain," her tactical officer called out. Multiple hull breaches, engine room offline, life support failing. Santos looked around her bridge, seeing the faces of people who had given everything for this moment. "Signal all units," she said quietly. "This is Prometheus 7. We are beginning our final approach. It has been an honor to serve with you all." The Indomitable accelerated toward the Council battleship, its remaining weapons firing continuously. Other human ships followed suit, turning themselves into guided missiles and acts of sacrifice that stunned their enemies. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle unfold on screens across the planet. In the deep bunkers where Earth's leadership had taken shelter, the debate over Phase 3 reached its climax. "We can't ask them to do this," President Vasquez said, her voice breaking. "The casualties will be enormous." General Torres looked around the room at faces marked by 3 days of unimaginable stress. "Madam President, the casualties will be enormous regardless. The question is whether they die for nothing, or whether they die to light a fire that burns across the galaxy." Admiral Chun, having arrived from Luna Station, placed her hand on the activation console. "The choice isn't ours anymore. It's humanity's. Every person fighting in this system made the decision when they refused to surrender. Now we honor that choice." Phase 3 wasn't a weapon or a tactic. It was a message amplified by every quantum communication array in human space, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy with the power of Earth's entire energy grid. The transmission was simple: the complete technical specifications for every advanced weapon humanity had developed, every tactical innovation they had discovered, every piece of technology they had created in their desperate preparation for this war. It was humanity's gift to every oppressed species in the galaxy, the tools to fight back. As the data streams raced across space at faster-than-light speeds, Admiral Chin watched the tactical display, showing the Council's overwhelming forces closing in on Earth. But for the first time in days, she was smiling. "Let them come," she said quietly. "We've already won." The final phase of Battle of Seoul began with a transmission that changed everything. As Earth's quantum arrays broadcast humanity's military secrets across the galaxy, the effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Galactic Council. On every world where the data was received, resistance movements that had been planning in secret for generations suddenly found themselves armed with weapons that could challenge Council supremacy. Council Prime Zephyrian stood aboard the Eternal Dominion, watching his empire begin to crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across Council space. Uprisings on dozens of worlds, entire sectors declaring independence, trade routes collapsing as species that had served the Council for centuries turned their newfound weapons against their former masters. Prime, Subcommander Krex's voice carried a note of desperation. "We're receiving priority distress calls from 17 core worlds. The humans' transmission has reached the inner sectors. Species we haven't had to actively suppress in 2 centuries are fielding weapons based on human designs." The irony was not lost on Zephyrian. In their determination to crush one small world, they had handed the tools of rebellion to every potential enemy in the galaxy. Status of our forces in the human system? Admiral Threenox reports heavy casualties, but Earth's outer defenses are finally breaking. Mars has fallen silent. We believe their military command has been destroyed. The asteroid platforms have been reduced to less than 20% operational capacity. Zephyrian nodded grimly. They were winning the battle, but losing the war. Still, the complete destruction of humanity remained essential. They had to demonstrate that defiance of the Council carried ultimate consequences. On Earth, the reality of approaching defeat was undeniable. Admiral Chin stood in the deepest bunker on the planet, surrounded by the remnants of human leadership as reports came in from the dying defense network. "Luna Station has gone dark," reported General Torres. "Last transmission indicated critical damage to life support systems. We have to assume Admiral position compromised." President Vasquez looked around the bunker at faces marked by exhaustion and loss. "How long before they reach Earth?" 6 hours, maybe less. Chun replied, "But the Phase 3 transmission is complete. Every species in the galaxy now has access to our weapons technology, our tactical doctrines, our manufacturing processes. The Council can destroy us, but they can't undo what we've unleashed." Dr. Hawthorne, monitoring communications from her station, suddenly straightened. "Wait, I'm detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple fleets, but they're not Council configurations." The main display showed sensor readings that made everyone in the bunker hold their breath. 17 separate fleets had just arrived at the outer edge of Sol System, their ships displaying energy signatures consistent with human-derived technology. "Who are they?" whispered President Vasquez. The answer came in the form of a transmission that brought tears to the eyes of battle-hardened military officers. The face on the screen was distinctly non-human, scaled with multiple eyes, but the voice spoke perfect English. "People of Earth, This is Fleet Admiral Xerix of the Free Altarian Republic. Your message was received. We stand with humanity. More transmissions followed in rapid succession. The Kepler Mining Consortium, the Tau Ceti Independence Movement, the Vegan Liberation Front. Species that have been under Council rule for decades or centuries, all arriving with fleets built using human technology and crewed by beings who had chosen freedom over subjugation. Admiral Threenox, commanding the Council's assault on Earth, found himself facing a tactical nightmare. His forces were positioned to destroy a single world, but suddenly found themselves surrounded by hostile fleets emerging from faster-than-light travel at multiple vectors. All Council vessels. This is Admiral Chin of Earth Defense Command. Sarah's voice rang across every communication channel. She was speaking from a backup command post, having survived the destruction of Luna Station. You came here to show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council. Instead, you're about to learn what happens when the galaxy decides it's had enough of the Council. The Battle of Sol's final phase was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Ships of a dozen different species, many using improvised weapons based on human designs, engaged the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's technological superiority, built over millennia of conquest, suddenly meant nothing when their enemies fought with human tactical doctrines that emphasized mobility, innovation, and absolute refusal to surrender. Captain Santos, somehow still alive aboard the heavily damaged Indomitable, led a combined squadron of human and Altarian ships in a final assault on the Council flagship. Her vessel, held together by emergency welds and determination, accelerated toward the massive Eternal Dominion, with weapons charging for one last strike. All ships, this is Prometheus 7, she transmitted. We're going to show them how humans say goodbye. But before her suicide run could reach its target, something unprecedented happened. The Eternal Dominion's shield suddenly failed, not from external damage, but from internal sabotage. Emergency pods began ejecting from the massive vessel as explosions tore through its hull. Sub-Commander Krex's voice came over the emergency channels, his translation protocols struggling with what seemed to be laughter. Council Prime, the humans' Phase 3 transmission, included more than weapon specifications. They transmitted the complete schematics of Council ship designs, including override codes for emergency systems. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Humanity's intelligence operation hadn't just placed agents throughout Council space. They had compromised the very ships being used against them. Zephyrian, his crystalline form now flickering with patterns of disbelief, realized the full scope of what these creatures had accomplished. They had turned his own forces against him. Prime, Krex continued, I'm receiving surrender requests from 18 of our ships. Their crews, they're asking to defect to the Human Alliance. As the Eternal Dominion continued to tear itself apart, escape pods scattered across the battlefield. Some were picked up by retreating Council forces, but others were recovered by human ships whose crews offered medical aid to enemies who had come to destroy them. The gesture was not lost on the galaxy. Admiral Chin stood in her command center, watching tactical displays that showed the impossible. The Galactic Council's invasion force in full retreat, pursued by an alliance of species that found their courage in humanity's example. Status report, she requested, her voice hoarse from days of combat. Council forces are withdrawing from the system, reported her tactical officer. Estimated enemy losses, over 60% of their invasion fleet. Our allies report minimal casualties thanks to the technological advantages provided by our Phase 3 transmission. Chin nodded, then activated the galaxy-wide communication network one final time. This is Admiral Sarah Chin of Earth, speaking to all species across the galaxy. Today, we prove that freedom is not granted by the powerful. It is taken by the brave. The Galactic Council came to our system expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found something they had never encountered in 12,000 years of empire, a species that would rather die free than live as slaves. Her voice carried across space to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. But we are not alone anymore. Today, we stand the Altarians, the Keplers, the Vegans, and every other species that has chosen liberty over servitude. The age of the Galactic Council is over. The age of the Free Galaxy Alliance begins now. The war that followed would rage for decades, but its outcome was never in doubt. An empire built on fear and submission could not stand against an alliance founded on courage and mutual aid. Humanity had not just survived the Council's ultimatum, they had shattered the chains that bound the galaxy. Years later, historians would mark the Battle of Sol as the moment when a single species' refusal to kneel became the spark that lit the fire of galactic freedom. The Council's threat had been received, and humanity's response had changed the cosmos forever. The message was clear. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We are humanity, and we are free.